Welcome back, Fantasy Endgame fam, fantasy baseball players. Another week in the books. It's Sunday night. We're going to talk about what happened this week, get you ready for next week. And of course, that means 2-star streamers. Pierre, I know you're feeling good because you got your revenge in the Endgame League after I beat you the first time. It looks like you're going to take home the W this week. How you feeling?
Yeah, you may have the best player in the game right now, of course, talking about Cal Raleigh, but wasn't able to power you through. But it's funny, we were just talking about this. I finally, because we talk 2-star streamers every week. My problem, my first world problem here is that in my league, I can't pick up my own favorite streamers because as soon as I say who I like, everyone else picks them up. So I just decided to do away with that problem. I've got great pitching now. I made some trades. I love my rotation. I just don't love my offense. So I'm just glad we were able to scrape by. It was kind of a matchup of star power here. It was like my Ohtani versus your Cal Raleigh, and it looks like we barely got on top.
Yeah, I may have Cal Raleigh, but I unfortunately also have Ellie De La Cruz, who I drafted to be one of the leaders in steals, and he does not steal bases anymore. Apparently, that's a thing of the past. 1 steal over the last 2 weeks. Yeah, not why I drafted you, Ellie. Start running more. All right, but that's not why you're here. You're here. We'll probably get your questions answered, but also to hear about the 2-star streamers. So let's dive right in. And yeah, I saw the first name on this list, and I saw that schedule, and I thought, how can you not start Brady Singer in both starts this week against the Marlins and the Rockies in KC, so you don't have to worry about Colorado? But then I looked at his last 2 starts, and I thought, okay, I could see why you might be a little worried. 5 innings pitched, 4 earned run against the Yankees. That's fine. It's a ranking, the Yankees. But then just 3 innings pitched and 2 earned runs against the Red Sox. But this schedule, just too good, right?
Yeah, and you know what? I'm trying to think back. This is probably the first week where he's qualified to be a 2-star streamer because he was drafted pretty much everywhere, most leagues. And his rostered rate was at least 70-something% for most of the season. I didn't want any Singer this year because we know going from KC to Cincinnati, that ballpark, not a good switch, right? Going from, a place where I think is not the lowest, one of the lowest, Kauffman Stadium for home runs, and then of course Great American Ballpark, number 1. Now Singer is a ground ball pitcher, and that's probably why they targeted him for Cincinnati, but still not a good switch. And he was just okay, but not great all season. And then after his last couple of outings, you said people are starting to give up on him. Now I get that. I'm not like in on Singer the rest of the season. I don't think there's going to be anything drastically different here, but I'm in on him this week because he gets the Marlins and the Rockies. The Marlins are starting to cool off again, predictably. They had a little hot streak in June, but this past week, 25th in runs scored, right? The offense is finally looking more like the Marlins offense. And then the Rockies, sure, they've been less worse, but still 21st in runs scored this past week. And no team strikes out more than the Rockies. And that's still the case. Highest K percentage over the season. So it's a great schedule. This is a case where don't just look at what happened last week and the last 2 weeks. Sure, he's had some bad starts. He should be better this week.
All right. And then speaking of better, Jose Soriano. I know this is a guy you like, and he's had moments of brilliance this year and moments of not brilliance, I guess. But his last start against Atlanta was brilliance. 7 innings pitched, no earned runs, 7 strikeouts. What's going on here? This guy now has 6 or more strikeouts in 4 of his last 5 games. Are we actually seeing him give you some K upside? And he gets a great schedule this week. The Rangers, the Diamondbacks, but look, the Diamondbacks haven't been as good lately. I'm not sure. Is Corbin Carroll back yet?
Just came back. Yeah. Just came back. I think it was yesterday. And like today, it didn't matter. He was still leading off, and the Diamondbacks barely scored, didn't anything. Right. They're still all sorts of banged up. So look, loyal viewers here, the saga of Jose Soriano. I won't rehash it, but I had just finally put him on the waiver wire. Like, okay, he's not just a streamer. You can't ignore this. Pick him up. And of course, the very next start, he got lit up like by Boston or something. But you can't just give up again after one bad start, because guess what? Then he was good again. He was good again. And 7 scoreless against the Braves. yeah, there's going to be some blips on the radar. This is going to happen with any of these pitchers, with all of these pitchers. So you can't overreact to either the good or the bad, but look at the body of work over the past month. Jose Soriano has been mostly really good. Quality start now in 4 of the last 5 starts. And the Rangers, of course, we know, great schedule. And the Diamondbacks, as I mentioned, even though Carroll is technically back, still Moreno is hurt. Now Pavin Smith is hurt. Josh Naylor, maybe not 100%. Suarez could be traded any day. This Diamondbacks team is, kind of on the verge here. So I love the schedule. I think we have to believe.
All right. Speaking of looking at the body of work and not the last start, that's Will Warren, who absolutely hurt me this week in my matchup against you, because after looking good for a month or more, really, 8 earned runs in just 4 innings this past week to absolutely destroy me and my ratios. But looking ahead here, he does get 2 starts. Now, the Mariners, you got to feel good about that. Then there is the Cubs, who, still one of the best offenses. But I know you like Warren still. So are you just scratching that or chalking that last start up to like, okay, just a bad day and I'm back in on him? Or are we starting to get a little worried here?
No, again, this is the same thing. Just when he had this string of dominant starts, of course, that the bad one happened right after the endorsement. It's going to happen. He's a young pitcher. So the Blue Jays have been red hot, to somewhat excuse it. He ran into a hot team. The Mariners are not hot on offense, so it's a great first start. The Cubs, of course, I'm scared of that start. You don't have to start him twice if you're in a league where you can make daily changes. Maybe start him for the first one, not the second one. But even in a not so great matchup, he still has K upside, and he still can get you a win being on the Yankees. So he's still going to be toward the top of the streamer list, and he's now back to being a streamer. He's below 50% rostered.
All right. And then another guy who hurt me this week, not because he wrecked my ratios or had a bad outing, but because he pitched in a suspended game on my bench and I got none of those stats. Again, fantasy baseball, where only this kind of random stuff happens. No other sport. Like, imagine if in football, it's like, yeah, this guy played, but you don't get the stats. Okay. Anyways, that's what happened with Brian Bello, because he pitched in that suspended game, and he was good in it. 5 innings, only 2 earned runs, struck out 3. But prior to that, because again, he didn't start that game, it was a suspended game, so he took over the next day, I guess, whatever you want to call it. But you look prior to that, 5 straight games, 5 straight quality starts, which is why I was hanging on to Brian Bello. Had not given up more than 3 earned runs in any games. Now, he didn't have a ton of strikeouts. He's not going to get you a ton of strikeouts necessarily. But he gets the Rockies at home and the Rays at home. Those are 2 teams that you definitely want to target when they are on the road. When I say at home, I mean in Boston, away from their home parks. So, great schedule this week. He's been great. Why isn't he higher?
Well, he just doesn't strike out a lot of batters. He just doesn't. So that's part of it. And honestly, the way he started the season, a lot of people, he was injured, right? And then when he came back first of injury, wasn't that great. Hasn't been great consistently for the past couple of years. So I did talk about Bello as a waiver wire pickup, a week or so ago. Like 5 straight quality starts before this suspended weird game, which technically he got a win for. So you're not getting strikeouts here, right? Every pitcher I'm about to talk about the rest of the way here, you're not getting strikeouts here. So at least get the guy who typically goes pretty deep into games, right? He's been going at least 6 innings for 5 straight starts, which is why he got quality starts for all of them, right? So you want that. You want a guy who can at least eat up those innings, give you a chance for either the QS or the W. And the schedule, yes, I like the fact that he's getting the Rays at home, not in that minor league ballpark. So, and of course, the Rockies. This is a chance where he might actually get some strikeouts.
He may. Definitely good streamer this week. Now let's talk about a guy that people were very hyped on. And of course, like a lot of young pitchers, not all of them, but like a lot of them, he didn't come out of the gates very strong, but we've seen him get better and better. I'm talking about Yuri Perez, and now he's coming off a fantastic start where he shut out the Twins through 6 innings and struck out 7 batters. But the schedule this week is not great. He's got to pitch in Cincinnati, which is a very hitter-friendly park. And then he does pitch in Baltimore. And I'll say one thing I've noticed about the Orioles. Yes, that lineup has been struggling, but they seem to hit better at home than on the road. So a tricky 2 starts here, but we're getting a little deeper. He does at least have some upside, right?
Yeah, so I've kind of sounded the alarm on getting sucked in by one good start, especially for a young, super talented pitcher that we're all excited about. Yuri Perez looks like he could be basically like a right-handed Randy Johnson. He's not there yet. He's not. So yeah, he looked great this past time out. But keep in mind, he looked really bad the previous couple of starts. So this could go either way. This is one of those where, look, you want to roll the dice. Not great offenses, right? The Reds and the Orioles are both kind of middle of the pack. And recently, last couple of weeks only, again, right there, kind of league average. And so if he's on, he might look great. If he's not, he might get lit up. So you can get some strikeouts here for sure, only from Yuri Perez. But again, I prefer not to stream a player when I don't really know what I'm going to get from him, because this could wreck my ratios. But at the same time, he has the talent to actually put together 2 dominant starts. It could go either way.
All right. Speaking of a pitcher that can go either way, let's talk about Andrew Heaney's June. First 3 starts in June, he had 2 quality starts, didn't give up more than 3 earned runs in any game. Then he had 2 starts against the Tigers and Brewers where he gave up 7 earned runs in 4 innings in both of those games. But then his final start in June against the Cardinals, a 6 2/3 shutout game with 7 strikeouts. And he gets a fantastic schedule this week, Royals and Twins. So I know the schedule is good, but does he still make you nervous?
Always. He's always going to make me nervous, but not so nervous when I see it's the Royals and the Twins. Yeah, it's too good. You can't ignore this. And Haney was actually, you might remember, was supposed to be a 2-start streamer last week, but things conspired to bump one of those games up. So here we go, 2 starts, and I might actually want to prefer him over a guy like Yuri Perez. It's hard for me to say I trust him more though, just because he's a veteran. Because you've seen, like you said, he can have blow up starts too. But yeah, Kansas City and Minnesota. Minnesota has been the worst offense over the past couple of weeks in the league, and KC has been the 3rd worst in terms of batting average over the past week. So yeah, he's available. He's out there. You can probably pick up Andrew Heaney in almost any league you're in. So we know there is still some risk just because it's looks like an easy schedule. No, it's not guaranteed to go 6-7 innings and shut them out, but there's a decent chance.
All right, let's talk about risk. Let's talk about Nick Martinez. This guy had a nice start to the year. I streamed him a couple times, and then he got rocked in a couple games, and then I think they moved him to the bullpen, if I'm not mistaken. They brought him back as a starter, and look, 2 starts ago, he was great. 8 innings pitched, only 1 earned run. Wasn't bad this last start against the Red Sox, 4 earned runs in 6 2/3. Gets a great schedule this week. You're not so mighty Marlins, and again, the Rockies not in Colorado, which is always what you want. So, all right, what are we getting from Nick Martinez this week?
You tell me. Spin the wheel and see where it lands. Nick Martinez is either going to throw 7 scoreless or he's going to give up 5 runs in 2 innings. It's one of those, maybe in between, but really, honestly, that's the thing with Nick Martinez. And they're like, he has the same schedule as Brady Singer. How can you put Brady Singer first and he's at the bottom? Because Nick Martinez doesn't always care what the matchup is. He will either show up or not. And I know Singer isn't exactly, top of the league in strikeouts, but Nick Martinez, 17% strikeout rate. You're not getting a lot of strikeouts there. So he is still super risky despite great schedule.
All right. And then finally, our last 2-start streamer, Noah Cameron, started the season great, right? 5 straight quality starts, wasn't giving up any runs. Has been a little rockier since, hasn't gone more than 5 2/3 innings in any of his last 5 starts here. But he gets a fantastic schedule this week. The Pirates, which anytime I see my opponent has a pitcher going against the Pirates, I just assume he's going to strike out 8 batters and go 7 innings. And he gets the Mets, who have been ice cold, but maybe heating up again. So Noah Cameron, I know a lot of people like Noah Cameron. How much do you like Noah Cameron this week?
barely enough to put him as a 2-start streamer after even Nick Martinez, which feels odd. But like the thing is, you got to worry. This is a case where you don't just look at the season stats, because in the season, 2.56 ERA. That's great. Okay, the strikeouts aren't there, but neither are they for anybody else we've just talked about, except for like Yuri Perez, 19% K rate. But you're not getting those. But he's on a very clear downward trajectory. So his first 5 starts, like I said, at least 6 innings in all of those starts. And now his last 2 starts, he hasn't even finished 5 innings. So it's not that late in the season, but it's like, is he tiring out already? Remember, this is a rookie. He hasn't thrown a ton of innings at a pro level. I don't know what it is, but he has not been as good. The fact that the Pirates are on the schedule and the Mets, who haven't been red hot, that's what saves him. But again, I wouldn't jump to put him over any of the other guys I've already mentioned.
All right, so there you go. They're the top 2-start streamers for whatever week we are in fantasy baseball. It feels like it's like a week 100 by now, but we're not even at the All-Star break, which is pretty surprising. By the way, when is the All-Star break? Is that this week?
Next week. We got the 13th, 14th, 15th. So keep that in mind too, guys. I know you have to put a disclaimer. Most leagues tell you, like, if it's a weekly league, they might combine it into 2 weeks because you got some games, then you don't. But anyways, we have about a week until we're getting ready for All-Star break.
Yes. All right. And of course, we're here to answer your questions for this upcoming week. If you got those questions, drop them in the comments. And of course, if you're impatient, you don't want to wait, or you're just feeling generous and you want to drop that super chat, get to the front of the line, do that as well. And we will answer your question right away, or at least as soon as we see it, and you can skip the line. We do have a lot of questions. Let's dive right in, and let's start with Ryan. Wants to know, Dylan Cease, what are we doing with Dylan Cease at this point in the season?
I think I could still buy low if it's possible, but if you have him, I'm holding. It wasn't his best first half, but this guy still piles up strikeouts. The Padres haven't been that great lately, but I think they'll be better in the second half once the offense wakes up. He can still get you wins. He goes deep into games. He can still get you quality starts. He's really been a lot better since the first month of the season. If you take out that first month and then just assume that's going to be his worst month of the whole season, he's still a really good pitcher. So if I got him, I'm holding him. If I don't, I might even try to buy low.
All right. And then he wants to know, what about Andrew Abbott? Are we selling high, or are you being patient?
I've been calling Abbott a sell high, and then finally it was like, okay, he's been so good for so long. That blow up start, that kind of makes everything come crashing down, hasn't really happened yet. I'm still a little nervous that he does kind of fall apart, because this is a pitcher, as we've seen in the past, not that he's got a long major league resume, but I'm a little nervous that all of a sudden the batted ball luck might swing the other way. But he's been overall pretty good. I'm nervous about home starts with him. He's a fly ball pitcher in a hitter friendly park. So if you can sell high, meaning get something that's significantly more helpful, not pitching wise, but maybe let's say a really good starting player at a position, yeah, I can do that. I mean, it's okay to hold him. I think you can be patient, but if you can sell high, of course, do it.
All right. And then what about Brandon Woodruff, who made his season debut today? And boy, was it good. 6 innings, 1 earned run, 8 strikeouts, no walks. Do you recommend picking him up?
I think so. Well, Scott, you might not have seen the waiver wire video from 2 days ago. He was the number 1 pitcher I mentioned. It's time to buy into him if you didn't already. If he's available, I mean, go get him right now. If he happens to be still available after his start. Yeah, so much for easing into the workload, right? And only going to go 4 or 5 innings. Yeah, forget all that. He looked great. So yeah, if he's out there, I'll say, okay, must add. If he's out there, you've got to pick him up.
Yeah, you got to pick him up. And then another one from Ryan. Any word on Alex Bregman when he's going to be back?
Well, we've heard some encouraging news. It should be pretty shortly. I don't think he's going to surprise us, come back before the break like Corbin Carroll did, but it should be right after the break. So, yeah, it should be soonish. And, there have been some rumors about the trade market. I'm saying the Red Sox might shake things up. I don't think Bregman's going anywhere. And despite all the changes with Devers not being there, the young players are starting to pick it up. So I think Bregman is still a pretty good hold.
All right, then Michael, what's up? Speaking of Michael, you can't stand Michael Harris anymore. Are you giving him permission to drop him? Batting .210 on the season with a monstrous 6 home runs. Michael, you have permission to drop him, or you got to keep holding?
You've had permission to drop Michael Harris for a good several weeks. I put him on the cut list back in like May, and guess what? So since we're about to officially finish the first half, instead of panic, I'm going to put out a cut list. Like just drop the dead weight, right? I'm not going to talk about Michael Harris because I've already talked about him too much. I've already told you to drop him for weeks now. Just drop him and move on.
All right. Move on. You have permission. Fantasy sports, what's up, Misty, on the Underdog draft we just did? All right. Rank these starting pitchers. Shaheen from the Dodgers. Ryan Nelson, who was great this week. Will Warren, who was not great this week. And Joe Boyle. Joe Boyle! Why do we keep getting questions about Joe Boyle?
No, I think the Boyle thing is just like a running joke. So for those first three, let's just see.
Joe Boyle did go, if for what it's worth, Joe Boyle did go 5 innings today, 7 strikeouts. Got 7 strikeouts 2 games in a row.
Nah.
Right.
Let's see it more than once. I'm gonna say my worry about Sheehan is he was good, but look, Tyler Glasnow is on the verge of coming back. At some point, you got to think Blake Snell is coming back. I just don't know if I feel secure about his spot in that rotation and how deep he's going to go. So I'm going to go. See, the thing with Nelson and Warren is like one gives you high strikeout upside. That's Warren. The other gives you pretty consistent low ratios. That's Nelson. So it's almost like what's your preference? It might depend on what you need, right, in terms of standings. But you're forcing me to pick. So I'll say Warren 1, Nelson 2, Sheehan 3, and Boyle 4.
All right, there we go. Knuckle curve. Pick 3 out of these 7 pitchers off the waiver wire. Joe Boyle. I guess we're going to get a lot of Joe Boyle questions. I mean, look, back-to-back starts with 7 strikeouts. You gotta take a little bit look. Lauer, Sandy Alcantara, Jose Soriano, Cantillo, Jack Leiter, or Shane Smith. Which 3?
Okay. Which, by the way, I feel like that looks like that Tim Wakefield avatar.
That looks like that is definitely Tim Wakefield.
Nice. Okay.
I don't know if he threw a knuckle curve. He just threw a knuckleball, right?
Yeah. It was straight knuckleball. Okay, so pick 3 out of these pitchers. I'm gonna go Soriano. I'm gonna go Alcantara, and then I think I still like Shane Smith. I want to believe in Leiter. I gotta see it more consistently, because he's one of those players that could hurt you as much as he helps you. Smith hasn't really hurt you much this year, so I'll go with those 3: Alcantara, Soriano, and Smith. And then pick 3.
He wants 3 of these IL pitchers: Sasaki, Pablo Lopez, Shamanea, Spencer Arrighetti, Bryce Miller.
Well, I'll tell you the ones I'm actively stashing. Arrighetti's number 1. Hopefully back soon. Miller and Lopez. Sasaki, who knows? Too risky. Manea, fine, but let's see. He had a setback. You remember, he still doesn't have the upside. Pablo Lopez, you're going to have to stash for a while longer. So if you're impatient and you need help now, then I guess you can go Manea when he comes back. But I'm picking Arrighetti first, Miller second, Lopez third.
All right, there we go. And then Doyle wants to know, rest of the season, TJ Friedl or your boy, Jurickson Profar?
You go Profar. We already answered the questions. As far as whether he can hit post PED, he's done it, which was funny because right after that very first game, right, you get that home run, like his first game back, and somebody said nobody's getting the cup in his locker room for a urine sample faster than that guy. It's like they're not gonna wait. But hey, Profar, you know what he can do. I'm gonna go with him.
All right, let's help Andrea here. She wants to know if she forgets to put a pitcher starting lineup, does she still get points for it? I'm gonna say probably not.
Nope. Sorry, Andrea, but you know what? You don't need help. You're in first place right now. No help needed.
No help needed. All right, Roxana, what's up? Is Jose Altuve a sell high at the moment?
Well, it's hard to say he's a sell high when he hasn't really been that great this year. I know the Astros have been solid. He's getting a little bit better, but I wouldn't consider him a sell high because you're probably mostly disappointed with Altuve if you have him. He's not stealing bases, and the batting average is just okay. Honestly, he's even outperforming his X stats. He probably could and should be doing worse. So the question might be, is he a sell now? And I don't think so. Even with what I just said, if Jordan Alvarez ever comes back, maybe that actually helps him in terms of scoring runs. And I just don't know what you're getting for Altuve. And second base isn't exactly the deepest position. So, look, if somebody really likes Jose Altuve and, doesn't check like the actual stats and thinks he's an all-star, okay, fine. Then you can do it.
All right. Irish Ronin, what's up? Rest of the season, Jackson Holiday or Trevor Story. My sob story for Jackson Holiday is I had him on the bench today and Tommy Edman in at second base. And of course, Tommy Edman didn't play and Jackson Holiday, and I didn't see it in time. And Jackson Holiday went 4-for-4 with a home run that I really needed in our matchup. Fun times. All right. Rest of the season, who you got here?
I think we have to go Holiday, less risk for slump and injury, etc. Story has been hot, but remember what he did before then. It's funny how easy we forget, right? Was the hottest player in baseball for 2 weeks, and then the coldest and the worst player in baseball for about a month, and now he's hot again. I'm not saying that guarantees a cold slump is coming, but it's possible. So I'll take Holiday.
It's funny. Anthony and I made a trade, Cody Bellinger for Tommy Edman, like a while back. This was before Tommy Edman hurt his ankle or whatever. And I don't even know who won that trade as we sit here right now. I think we just both lost.
It's a lose-lose, the best.
Like, I don't think neither of these guys have been any good.
The best is when you do a trade and it's like not star players, right? Like decent, like starter, like 1-for-1. And then after a couple of weeks, both players get dropped because you're like, man, this sucked. Like, because both players have been sucking. So they're just like, forget it.
All right, JDD, what's up? You can only keep 2 this week. Ryan Nelson, Chase Burns, or Edward Cabrera. Who you got? Which 2?
Well, I'm not out on Chase Burns. I'm not, I'm not going to overreact to a guy who just has a couple of starts under his belt. I think he'll get better and I think he's usable, but I'm going to keep Cabrera. Cabrera has been the best of the bunch. I mean, he's been so good lately. You got to keep him. And I still like Ryan Nelson. The chances of getting burned by one of these guys is far higher with Chase Burns. So I think for now, you got to go Cabrera and Nelson.
All right. And then this is an interesting question from Derek. I like this question because Shohei Ohtani has been phenomenal for the 1 or 2 innings they have let him pitch. So when do we start seeing his innings increase?
Let's see, 2020, no, maybe 2026.
You don't think this season they're not going to ramp him up as they get towards the postseason? They don't want Shohei. They're not going to have Shohei pitch in the postseason.
So I'm actually going to address this in tomorrow's video. I don't want to give it away. This is like a kind of spoiling it, but you guys, you're on here watching me. You're probably going to watch the video anyways. I don't have a lot of confidence in Shohei Ohtani, the pitcher. Let's just put it that way. For fantasy, he's a great pitcher, but for fantasy, we got to be realistic. So, are they going to increase? Yes, but what I saw is basically they're saying they hope that by the end of the year he'll get up to 5 or 6 innings. You got to start to wonder out loud exactly how useful is a pitcher like that, you know what I mean, who's giving you that much. So I'll go into more detail in tomorrow's video.
All right. Doyle wants to know, would you rather have Chase Burns or Yuri Perez?
That's a good question. Very similar profile in the sense that they are flamethrowers. They are super young and super inconsistent. So I did call Yuri Perez a decent two-start streamer, but I don't love his schedule. As I mentioned there, Burns, I think, has a better schedule. So he's not a two-start streamer, I don't think, this week. If I had to pick between the two, I mean, are you asking rest of season, or are you asking just like for this week until the All-Star break? If you're asking for this week, I'll go Yuri Perez. If you're asking rest of season, I might go Burns.
All right. And then Keith wants to know, are we keeping the faith in Jesus Luzardo, the only pitcher who let you down this week, by the way? I think every one of your pitchers, except him, came through for you this week. Are you keeping the faith or let him go?
I'm keeping the faith. That he had that patch, that rough patch. Okay, that historically bad patch of 2 starts, and he was tipping his pitches. He fixed it. He was dominant. He had another bad start, but again, this happens. Good pitchers have bad starts, so I'm going to keep faith.
All right, and this is a good question from Roxana here. She wants to know which star, I guess, that has not had a great first half will wake up after the All-Star break, or on the other side, are there some guys you think that have been great in the first half that are going to slow down?
Good question. Yeah. Now this also kind of depends on what you qualify as a star player. So, I've talked about Austin Riley being a guy who's been bad lately. I mean, the Braves have just been bad in general lately outside of Acuna. I think Riley's somebody who will wake up. I don't have a lot of confidence in the rest of the Braves offensively, but he's one I would identify. I was looking at, it's actually kind of shocking. Once I dug into it, I was looking at research for something else. Sal Perez has been really bad this year, just bad. He's still driving runs, but you got to think, because overall his for the most part until recently his expected stats weren't that bad. You can figure, well, he's just gonna wake up at some point. He hasn't, and the Royals haven't. So I'm not fully confident that he will, but I do think it's possible. If you want to swing on some upside for a catcher with a great offensive potential, I gotta think Sal would wake up. And then I don't know, Brian Reynolds doesn't really count as a star anymore, but he might actually get traded now. It's got to be a good thing for him. He has underachieved in his X stats, so he's not really a star, but I think he's a pretty good quality player who's been largely forgotten about, and I think finally, might get better. And then of course, your boy, Corey Seager.
Corey Seager's actually been red hot lately, and I'm really hoping he keeps it going tonight and hits another home run, because I need that home run in our matchup. He's actually turning around. The one I would be questioning is Freddie Freeman. I'm really worried that Freddie Freeman is dust. This guy's just dust.
I'm not worried about that. I think Freeman will be fine. He's just kind of dragging toward the All-Star break. It happens. One guy I'm not convinced will wake up, I'm worried if it happens, is Mookie Betts. Mookie Betts all of a sudden is not a star player anymore. Like, gotta wonder what's going on there.
All right, we'll see. That's a good question, though. All right, Kevin's got a trade question. He was offered Spencer Strider and Wyatt Langford for Ellie De La Mid. You know what's funny? I don't know if you remember this. When we did our draft, and I horrifically picked Ellie De La Cruz over Aaron Judge, which is ridiculous in hindsight, absolutely ridiculous. I said, I think Ellie De La Cruz can have a 30 home run season this year. And I might be right. But the problem is he might not even steal 30 bases.
He'll steal 30 bases. He's not that. Come on, he's not even that far.
Okay,
Doesn't
he might not steal
22?
40. He might not get 40. He's at 21 right now. He's got one steal over the last 2 weeks. He's got 21 right now. He might not get to 40.
Well, neither will Aaron Judge. So there.
Yeah, well, Aaron Judge might hit 60 home runs though.
But you
bat
got
350.
But you unwittingly you got not only the steal of the draft, but the best player in all of baseball.
Imagine if I had Cal Raleigh and Aaron Judge right now, you guys would have no chance.
It's true.
That's why I don't make baseball videos.
You're hanging in there. You're doing just fine. All right. So look, Ellie for Strider and Langford.
I
I
mean,
mean,
I can tell you right now, if this trade hit my inbox, I would decline.
yeah, I look, Strider is starting to look like Strider, right? So if I can see this, I mean, you're betting basically, you're taking a very calculated risk that Langford gets you something close to Ellie in terms of power and speed, right? He can steal some bases, of course, power. I don't think it's unreasonable, but I'm only doing this if I already have a good shortstop I can put in Ellie's place. And I mean good, like actually good, like in fantasy. Like I have Zach Neto or Jacob Wilson, like, on my utility spot chilling on the bench. And you really need help at starting pitcher. Again, it's a risk because you're hoping Wyatt Langford really kind of breaks out in the second half, which he actually could. So I think it's fair, but only I would do this in those circumstances.
All right, now let's go to Uwe2K. He says Pimpin' P, I assume that's his team name, needs more permanence and less streaming.
Gotcha.
All right, so you probably thought you had permanence like I did with Drew Rasmussen until they only let him go 2 innings today. And now it's like, what the heck do we do with Drew Rasmussen? So we're dropping any of these guys, Quinn Priester, Jacob Mizorowski, or Bubic for Edward Cabrera, Brandon Woodruff, Joe Boyle,
of course,
Sheehan, Shane Baz, Hauser, or Trevor Rogers.
All right, let's make this easy here. Yui. Let's just forget Hauser and Rogers. In your case, you don't need to pick up Sheehan. Come on, Boyle. Even if with these options, you don't need him. Pick up Woodruff. I'm going to pick up Baz, and I'm going to drop Priester and Rasmussen. I'm not out on. I got to just call Quinn Priester a pickup. You're like, why would you drop him? Because you have better options. Woodruff is better than Priester. Baz is better than Priester. That's why. And I'm not out on Rasmussen just because, his last couple of starts weren't great. But you have better options here. I want to pick up Cabrera too, but am I dropping Miz or Bubic? No, I don't think so. So I'm like, you got to add Woodruff, and I would do Baz next.
I mean, don't we have to be out on Rasmussen though? I mean, not that. I mean,
not completely.
Even though they only let him through 2 innings today, and they said they're going to limit his innings.
Well, that's
and even his last start, they took him out after 62 pitches.
Yeah, no, I don't think that's going to be the case every start.
Oh man. Well, you can pick him up off the waiver wire if you want. He'll give you 2 solid innings at least.
Well, okay. Now in our league, we do quality starts. He's got to go 6 innings. I don't think that's happening. So in that case, yeah, he's droppable in those leagues. But he's not. He'll still pitch probably 5 innings most of the time.
All right, F wants to know: we're dropping Austin Hayes for Jake McCarthy.
Well, no, because now Corbin Carroll's back. Complicates things. He came back sooner than we expected. He'll still get at bats. McCarthy will, because now Smith is hurt, and they might make trades. But I think I still would keep Hayes.
All right, and then Anthony's saying busy grilling, now chilling with us. Nice. Yes, hope you all had a good 4th as well. But he also wants to know: has Yuri Perez finally shown up? Is he here?
Well, already addressed this. I'm leery. I'm wary. Not convinced. So let's see what happens this week. Put it that way. If he can get by with 2 at least quality starts this week on the road, it's decent, but not great offenses. But again, not easy offenses either. Yeah, I need to see more.
All right, need to see a little more. King Sloth, what's up? Are we trusting Yu Darvish coming off the IL?
I don't know. This is another one that just keeps dragging on. We heard a month ago we were going to see him, and then there's all sorts of issues. So I think he's worth a stash if you got the space, but I've got to see him pitch at least 1 or 2 times, get the rust off before I want to really deploy him in my leagues.
All right, and then Mr. Waking Up wants to know, which 2 would you drop between Kyle Stowers, Spencer Steer, Jonathan Aranda, Trevor Story, Addison Barger, William Contreras. The other Contreras, it's a points league.
Well, you mean All-Star Kyle Stowers and All-Star Jonathan Aranda. Aranda's been great all year, and there's no way I'm dropping him. In a points league, I'm going to drop Steer and Story.
All right. And then Roxanne, I'm not sure if you saw this, but Paul.
And then let's just jump in the shark, I think.
Yeah, we just jumped the shark. We had a marriage proposal on here, and Derek saying his whip went way up. Just went way up. All right, Luis Correa says rate his ace pitching staff. So you got This is like, hey, rate my stacked team. Rate my stacked pitching staff. Christopher Sanchez, Yuri Perez, Brian Wu, Brandon Woodruff, Devin Williams, Jacob Mizorowski, Shohei, the pitcher. Of course, got to have Joe Boyle if you're going to have an ace pitching staff. Casey Mize, and I don't even know who Henderson is. And you got Reagans and Schwellenbach just chilling in IL. Okay, rate this staff. Oh, he's also got Aroldis Chapman, but tempted to drop for Grant Taylor or Randy Rodriguez.
All right. Well, I mean, having Joe Boyle in there makes this an automatic 9 at least out of 10. But okay, so this pitching staff was much better before Schwellenbach and Reagans were hurt. That's the problem, is you're not getting Schwellenbach anytime soon. Maybe September. I don't know. Reagans, who knows? So it is still good. I mean, it's a 12-team league. I would say you don't really have what I would consider an ace for fantasy. You've got a close, like a near ace kind of in Wu, and then you got Sanchez. And then Woodruff, look, maybe Woodruff can wind up being that guy. But even so, it's good. I'd say 7.5 because of the injuries. You know, when Reagans and Schwellenbach were on here early this season, this was more like an 8.5.
All right, there you go. F with a trade question. Would you trade Roman Anthony for Jordan Walker?
Nope. Not if I'm getting Jordan Walker. No.
All right. Then Uwe2K saying, hang in there, Bomb Squad. We're like stuck in last week. I won like 8-2, and I just stayed in 7th place. Like, no matter what I do, I like 7th, 8th, 7th, 8th, 7th. Like, it doesn't matter. Like, I win big, I stay in where I'm at, I lose, I stay. Like, it doesn't matter. Anyways, we're trying. We're trying to hang in there. The curse of the cloud of the Ellie over Judge pick looms over this team, is going to loom over this team all season long. I'm going to get the F manager rating or general manager rating for sure. All right. He wants to know, would you drop any of Elliot Ramos, Jack Caggs, Lawrence Butler, Chandler Simpson, or Noelve Marte for Kyle Stowers, Addison Barger, Jurickson Profar, your boy, Laureano, Taylor Ward, Austin Hayes, or Wilyer Abreu? Again, head-to-head categories league.
I mean, definitely don't drop Helio Ramos. Don't drop Butler. If you don't want to wait, if you want actual production, you could probably drop Caggs to pick up Stowers. And look, I would say I'd probably prefer to have Profar to Simpson, unless if you really need steals. If you just need help in steals and you're going to start Simpson, okay, then you can keep Simpson. But overall, I'd rather have Profar.
All right. Then he also wants to know, would you drop Yuri Perez for Edward Cabrera?
Yes.
Okay. All right. And then Vinny Lux vlogs, which, by the way, I know that's, when I look at it, it's a picture of, like, it looks like him in the Grand Canyon, or that area where, maybe not the Grand Canyon, but that area where, like, I forget what it's called. You know, the very scenic rocks formations or whatever. Anyways, but every time I see it, I don't know how many people are going to even know this. It reminds me of a Scary Kids Scaring Kids CD cover. I don't know how many people here even ever listen to Scary Kids Scaring Kids. Very obscure band. Anyways, just thought I'd mention that because I like to mention random facts on here. All right, rest of the season, Bobby Witt or Corbin Carroll. This must be a trade. Like, is there a trade in his inbox? Somebody sent this 1 for 1.
Maybe. Yeah, what are we going to get with Bobby Witt the rest of the season? Are we going to get the guy who was drafted in some leagues ahead of Aaron Judge, ahead of Ellie De La Cruz? Um, I know Carroll has been better. I still think I'm going to give the benefit of the doubt to Bobby Witt. I think better days are ahead. It's not like he's been bad. He's just not, worth taking with a number 1 overall pick or number 2 overall pick. So I'm going to still prefer Witt though.
You can see that was painful for you. And then Anthony
Yeah.
just did the unthinkable, left the grill unmanned, just to come on here to say that, to make me feel better, saying, hey, a lot of people were super high on Ellie. You weren't alone in taking Ellie over Judge in drafts. He's going to heat up. He may heat up, but I don't know if he's going to Aaron Judge heat up. I'm not sure we're going to see Ellie be as good as Aaron Judge. Here's what's most frustrating to me about me taking Ellie over Aaron Judge. Pierre, you will know this for a fact because I told you this. After last season, I said two things I'm not going to do. Number one, well, two things I'm going to do, I should say. Number one, I'm going to go after bombers. I'm going to go after home run hitters. It's more important to get those home run hitters. Number two, I'm not going to fall for those young guys who have only had like 1 or 2 seasons of production that everybody now thinks they're going to be the next greatest player in the history of baseball. So what did I do in the draft? I ignored the guy who hits home runs, and I took the young guy without the proven production. So I have no one to blame but myself. I went against both things I said I was going to do, and this is what I get.
Taking your own advice sounds exactly like something I would do. But you're not alone, Ellie. And I just mentioned it. Look, Bobby Witt Jr. in some leagues was taken before Judge, before Ohtani. He's been good, but you kind of think Aaron Judge would have been nice. It would have been better.
I mean, he's giving you everything but steals, and even like it's okay. I can do because Ellie hasn't even given me that many steals, honestly. So whatever. All right, now we're almost all caught up on questions. Are we caught up on questions? Yeah, we're all caught up in questions. So it only makes sense that we end with another Joe Boyle question because it's Joe Boyle. Derek wants to know: is Joe Boyle gonna stick around?
Well, look, it is possible that Joe Boyle sticks around second half because it is possible that the Rays do what the Rays do and trade a very good pitcher to save some money. They've got a 5-man rotation that's been solid all year, up and down a little bit, but still, they've got a pretty good rotation. But a guy like Zach Littell is rumored to be on the block. He's fine. He's a solid piece that a contender might want, but the Rays aren't going to go out of their way to hold on to him. So it's possible that Boyle sticks. They do something there. I think I'm going to want to see a little bit more from Joe Boyle. Come on, this is the classic. This is the classic. This is like the football, right? Charlie Brown. This. We're just waiting. You're waiting for the rug to be pulled from under you. I'm not doing it. I'm not doing it.
All right, not doing it yet. Well, maybe next week.
Until next week.
Maybe, it's good. I know how this ends. I already know. I've seen this movie. I know how this ends. He goes out there this week. He throws like a 6-inning shutout with 8 strikeouts, and then next week you say, fine, pick up Joe Boyle. You got to pick him up, and then his next start, 2 innings pitched, 10 earned runs. I know how this goes. I've already seen this one.
Yep.
This is how it goes.
You already know. See, you don't have to have been playing fantasy baseball for 20 years. You see a pattern, you recognize it, you already know. Or even better, like he'll throw like 6 scoreless innings, and then the next day they'll send him back down to the minors. You're like,
right. Everybody will pick him up. They'll drop all their fab on him, and then they'll send him back down. This is like that guy in the fantasy football, that wide receiver who this is his, everybody keeps waiting for him to break out, and he has that 2 touchdown game out of nowhere. Everybody drops all their fab.
Yep.
Then the next week he plays 5 snaps.
Joe Boyle. Good old Joe Boyle.
Good old Joe Bile. All right. And with that, we are all caught up on the questions. We're about an hour in. Appreciate everybody being here. It's always a good time. It's always fun chatting it up with you guys, answering your questions. I hope you guys enjoy it as much as we do. Don't forget, tomorrow we got cut list coming. We got breakouts coming every week. Of course, there's always beat the breakouts, buy lows, always trading, and of course, waiver wire coming out this week. And we will be back here Wednesday to get you caught up midweek on what's going on, get you ready for the rest of the week. Appreciate everybody being on here. If you're grilling like Anthony or whatever you're doing tonight, enjoy the rest of your Sunday, everybody, and we'll see you back here on Wednesday.